Hello students. Welcome to this a new initiative by me. My name is Amit Sinha. I welcome to all of you to this Amit Sinha IAS Academy, which is an online initiative. All right, and as I told you in my first lecture, which is already there on YouTube, that I will be discussing with you initially few of the very important topics of Indian economy from the prelims point of view of CSC 2020. So in the light of this COVID-19 attack, of course we are all homebound. So obviously from home only, I am also contributing my of course contributions in your preparation, especially in the context of prelims 2020. So as I have already discussed four important issues in my first video pertaining to the banking structure or banking institutions. I discussed with you the basic concept of bank merger. I discussed with you the shadow banking. I discussed with you the differentiated banking. And the fourth one was also the merchant discount rate. Now, today I am going to, in this particular video, today I am going to discuss with all of you these five basic issues again. That is Utkarsh 2022, Operation Twist, Masala Bonds, Bharat Bond ETF, Bond Yield Inversion, and Bilateral Netting. Alright, so let us start with the first issue, that is Utkarsh 2022. See, Utkarsh 2022 is a very important issue, especially in the context of the rising number of the non-banking financial institutions failing in India in last few years, especially in the backdrop of the failure of IL and FS, alright, that is infrastructure, lending and financial services. So this particular institution has failed in 2019, and due to which, of course, the RBI had to constitute a Viral Acharya panel to suggest RBI, to recommend RBI that how RBI can actually monitor the functioning of the non-banking financial institutions in our country. Alright. So in the light of that only, Utkarsh 2022 is an RBI initiative to monitor, to supervise the functioning of the non-banking financial institutions and companies in India which are dealing in a huge capital, which actually could be a potential you can say a threat for the country in terms of their failure, possible failure in near future. So to stop such kind of course disasters, this particular initiative is a very landmark initiative of the RBI, which talks about a three-year medium-term plan in which RBI is going to look after the functioning of all the non-banking financial institutions, especially in the context of their total assets and how and in what form the assets have been invested in the market. All right, that is what actually is the concept of Utkarsh 2022. Fine. That is the first concept here. Now, getting into next one, that is Operation Twist. Now, Operation Twist is another very big initiative of the RBI in last few years. What we have seen, the market is not responding positively as per the RBI wishes. I mean, despite RBI had adopted several monetary policies in the past in terms of bringing more and more liquidity in the market, obviously the market is not responding because of the behaviors of the banking institutions in terms of not transmitting the benefits of monetary policy on the ground to the customers, to the beneficiaries, for which RBI has always been formulating a very, I would say, expansionary monetary policy in the last few months. Fine. So in the context of that only, Operation Twist actually has been adopted by RBI in December 2019. Fine. Now see, what is Operation Twist? Operation Twist is a concept under which RBI will sell the short-term securities to the scheduled commercial banks, and will RBI also purchase the long-term securities from the scheduled commercial banks. Now, why it will be done? It will be only done to infuse capital into the scheduled commercial banks. Now see, scheduled commercial banks are theoretically supposed to maintain the government securities that we all know under the concept of SLR, that is the statutory liquidity ratio. So under this concept, they have to maintain a minimum of government securities and at the same time under the open market operation. Of course, RBI on the behalf of the government of India also sells the government securities to the scheduled commercial banks. Alright. I believe all of you are well aware of the concept of government securities. Alright. So government securities are the most reliable securities in the investment market. Fine. So idea is that in this context, what RBI will do under Operation Twist? At one hand, RBI will sell the securities. On the other hand, RBI will purchase the securities. Now, how it will benefit to the scheduled commercial banks? Let us just try to understand one small issue. Suppose the first instance, RBI has purchased the securities from the scheduled commercial banks. So when RBI will purchase the securities from scheduled commercial banks, in other words, RBI will infuse money into the scheduled commercial banks. Alright. Secondly, when RBI will sell the securities to scheduled commercial banks, RBI will suck out the money from the scheduled commercial banks. So the issue is that in this situation, what RBI will do, RBI will purchase the securities from scheduled commercial banks at a particular interest rate. Let's say 7% of interest rate. Fine. On the other hand, in the second step, RBI will sell the securities to scheduled commercial banks at the, let's say, 9% of interest rate. Now this is going to be a long-term interest rate. In other words, the scheduled commercial banks will have more liquidity in their pocket. More liquidity, more money in their pocket, which would help them in terms of keeping the interest rate, of course, lower down into the market, so that the customers in the market, me and you as a customer in the market, can easily borrow money from the scheduled commercial banks. Alright, scheduled commercial banks have not been able to reduce the interest rate despite at several occasions the Monetary Policy Committee has reviewed their entire policy rates. Alright, so of course with this lot of frustration that actually has come up with the RBI, finally RBI has adopted this Operation Twist. Now this Operation Twist has been influenced by the American concept, because in America the Federal Reserve Bank, it had already adopted this concept of Operation Twist in 1961, and secondly also in 2011 very recently. Alright, and through that they have been able to maintain a balance in the economy. So largely the idea under Operation Twist is one thing, and that is increase the liquidity in the market, increase the availability of credit in the market, increase the affordability of credit in the market, increase the accessibility of credit into the market. Because in last few months, what we have seen a recessionary tendency had emerged also in our economy. Alright, so to check that, such kind of measures are always welcome. Alright, that is the concept of Operation Twist. Fine. Written material on that will also be given to you shortly on my, of course, the Facebook page of Indian Economy run by Amit Sinha. Alright, so you can like this particular Facebook page, and through there you can also download the written material on all these topics. Fine, I'm simply giving you the basic idea, the concepts regarding all these topics. Now see, the another concept is also relevant here itself, that is bond yield inversion. It's related to the Operation Twist only. Since we have mentioned here in the context of the ninth you can say segment, bond yield inversion. Look, bond yield inversion is another concept which is related to Operation Twist. Now in what context? See, under the bond yield inversion, the long-term investment is actually giving us a less, you can say, interest, less income to the investors in the context of the short-term investors. So the short-term investors are getting more income than the long-term investors. So indirectly, if you have less income on the long-term investment, then definitely it will adversely impact your economy. How? It will adversely impact your economy in the context of that there will be lack of capital for long-term investment, especially in the context of, let's say, setting up industries, setting up factories, or even constructing infrastructure in our country. So obviously if you don't have long-term money or the capital for long-term, obviously these all basic structural aspects are going to be compromised. This is another challenge which has emerged, especially in the backdrop of the recessionary trend that has cropped up recently in our economy as well. So under bond yield inversion, what actually is happening? of course, the investment is not reaping the exact benefit for the long-term investors. And that is how what actually has happened, that normally this is the normal, you can say, this is XY axis. So idea is, normally what happens, that you get the normal, you can say, rate of interest over a long-term investment. All right. Now, at certain times, you also may get a steep investment, a steep income on your long-term investment. But this time, what actually has happened, this has actually fallen down. It has actually gone into negative. It has gone into negative, and this is the reason why the bond yield inversion has become a major issue for the Indian economy in recent past. And therefore, even in the economic survey of 2019-20, this issue of bond yield inversion has been discussed at a great length. All right. So indirectly, this is another issue which can also be asked to you as a question there in the prelims examination. Fine. So bond yield inversion, operation twist are both interlinked with each other. Fine. Now, coming to masala bonds. See, masala bonds. Now, masala bonds, let me explain to you masala bond. See, masala bond. Idea is, first of all, what is a bond? See, bond is a debt instrument. Bond is an instrument through which you raise capital to run your business. Alright. So, idea is, masala bond is particular debt instrument which is being raised, of course, by various agencies, started with the International Finance Company, IFC, in 2014 for the first time, when it launched a masala bond. It is basically a rupee denominated bonds being raised in the offshore market, outside Indian market. So from outside Indian market, in rupee denominated bonds, the capital is being raised by the authorized Indian corporate houses, by the authorized Indian business houses. Fine. So this is a concept of masala bond. Fine. Now this concept in last few years have become very popular, not only in India but across all the developing economies of the world. For example, let's say in China. Now in China also it has become popular. In China it is named as dim sum bonds. In Japan it is also named as samurai bonds. Alright. So similarly, you can see that various other countries have also come up with such kind of concept like dim sum bonds, samurai bonds, and most recently even Pakistan has released panda bonds. Panda bonds issued by Pakistan, but it is not in Pakistan currency. Alright, normally this concept of masala bond, it is basically in the local currency denomination. For example, in India is known by the spices. Therefore, the name of bond has been given as a masala bonds. All right. So it is rupee denominated bonds. Fine. Whereas in the case of Pakistan, they have issued panda bonds, not in the Pakistan form of currency or the Pakistani rupee. In fact, in that way, the idea is they have issued it in the context of the Chinese renminbi. So the Chinese renminbi currency, or in the Chinese currency, panda bonds have been issued by Pakistan to raise the Chinese investment inside Pakistan. Alright, that's what actually is the concept panda bonds. So in that way, these masala bonds have become very popular of late, especially last few years. Fine. So masala bond can also be asked to you as a question. Coming to the next one is the Bharat Bond ETF. Now see, Bharat Bond ETF. It is another very recent, you can say, initiative taken by the government of India to raise capital for the corporate houses. Alright. But it is in the context of ETF, that is exchange traded funds. Now what is exchange traded funds? See, ETF as a concept had been launched initially in 2016 by the government of India in terms of promoting the capital investment for the Indian companies, for the Indian government-owned companies. Now see how. What is ETF? Normally, when you have to raise capital, when a company, let's say company like ONGC, has to raise the capital from the of course, stock market. What they have to do, they have to raise their shares over there, they have to sell their shares over there, and through that they can raise capital from the stock market. Fine, this is what actually happens. But in last few years, what has been the tendency of the investors, especially retail investors, they had been investing only in the blue chip companies. Now the blue chip companies are like ONGC, NTPC, or other Maharatnas of the government of India. So these blue chip companies always give you a very, of course, good dividend, a good profit. Fine. Therefore, always it is the first choice of the investors to invest money. Now, the other PSUs, or let's say the other companies, and their shares will not be shot by the buyers, by the investors. Now, this is a challenge for the government. Now, this challenge the government has tried to meet by introducing a concept of ETF. Alright, first of all, they launched Bharat 22 ETF in 2017. Fine, now what was Bharat 22 ETF? Bharat 22 ETF was a concept in which what the government did, government chose a group of shares of the different public sector companies of India, including even the banking sectors and the non-banking sectors, but it actually had to be the public sector enterprises. Fine. And their shares were clubbed together, just like a bouquet of flowers. Let me give you one small example. Suppose you go to purchase one flower from the market, and every flower sellers, they say that their demand of flowers are always of roses. Normally everyone purchases rose for, let's say, gifting to someone very close to him or her. Now if only rose will be sold, then what will happen with the other flowers? Of course, a flower seller will be in loss. Under ETF, what actually is done, this concept has taken the clue from the flower sellers only. What a smart flower seller does, he makes a bouquet. Since there is a demand of, let's say, only rose, alright, so what he does, he makes a bouquet including a roses also in the bouquet. Fine. Now once you go to a flower shop, you want, let's say, a rose. The flower shop owner will say, we don't have only rose, we have a bouquet of roses. Roses including some other flowers as well. Alright. And that will cost you, let's say, if one rose costed you rupees 20, but bouquet will cost rupees 50 only. Or maybe rupees 40 only. So in rupees 40 or 50, what the flower shop has done, he has been successfully been able to sell you the bouquet of flowers. Fine. With a profit of rupees 20. If you would have purchased only a rose, he would have got only rupees 20. But now you have purchased a bouquet, you have paid him rupees 40 or rupees 50. That is the advantage. ETF is the same concept. What actually has been done? A bouquet of shares of PSUs were clubbed together and then it was thrown open to the investors. Fine. Through this, the money has been raised by the government. Fine. So, Bharat Bond ETF has been raised to, of course, recently, especially to raise capital also for the private corporate houses in India. Alright. And that's what actually is a new initiative taken by the government of India. Alright. And Edelweiss, Tokyo has been given the task of managing this Bharat Bond ETF. That is the concept of Bharat Bond ETF, to raise capital from the market for the corporate houses in India. Fine. The last one is, that is bilateral netting. Now see, bilateral netting is something which has not been allowed as per Indian Contract Act. Fine. So bilateral netting is a process in which the two particular companies having, let's say, liabilities or having claims of liabilities against each other can settle down their liabilities in favor of one or the other provisions. Now we don't allow bilateral netting to be done in India till today. So the budget 2020 has proposed to bring a change in Indian Contract Act and allow this bilateral netting, in which two or more companies which used to commit this particular netting between each other can also now be conducted between only two companies. Because till today in India, multilateral netting is allowed, but not bilateral netting is allowed. Alright? Now, as per the recent proposal of the Ministry of Finance in the budget 2020, they have proposed they are going to even look into the bilateral netting, in which the companies mutually can decide their disputes regarding their mutual liabilities in favor of one or the other, let's say, factor, and through this the companies' conflicts can be lessened down. This practice is allowed in almost all the developed economies of the world, including US, Europe, Japan, Australia, Canada. Now they all allow bilateral netting, but not in India. But now in India also this concept is going to be allowed. Now these all concepts are there which are equally important for all of you. Fine. So I'll keep it till here. In my next lecture, I'll take up some more issues on Indian economy. Alright, see you then. Bye bye. Thank you.